bondsheets.com. Hey, we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about negative yield bonds. Is it possible to have a negative yield bond? Yeah, bankers see it all the time. How do you get caught up into a negative yield bond? What has to happen? What prices have to be where they're at? And what lifestyle are the bondholders living these days? But first, a word from our sponsor. That's right. We have a new company here today called Texas Integrated Services, a web hosting company and also a programming firm that is basically taking over the America's market. And what I mean by that is a lot of companies, they were going to save tons of money by going overseas. Well, with meetings at 11 o'clock at night and what's the meaning of certain English words, companies got tired of it. They said, well, we got to bring our stuff back here. They thought they were going to make a lot of money by saving a lot of money by buying a website or an app overseas. But that just wasn't the case. Because now all of a sudden people are realizing that their guy that has a PhD over in India is not the same guy that has a bachelor's degree here in America. The levels of education is 10 times greater, 10 times better here in America than the so-called PhD student over in India. And I mean this in the greatest sense because after the guy, when James and I were talking, we found out that, this guy was promoting himself as a PhD student, and so when James finally had enough of the BS, because he wasn't able to answer certain questions right, he asked him, where did he get his degree? Well, the guy wouldn't give him an answer, so he finally went to HR, says, listen, man, where did this guy get his degree? And so when the HR firm showed him, he took a copy of it and wrote it down on a sheet of paper and researched the location of the degree, which happens to be a car repair shop. So after he started investigating, snooping around, he eventually told the guy, said, listen, man, we can't verify your degree. Well, let's just say that programmer hung up the phone and was never heard from again. And also the high turnover rates over in India were causing a lot of havoc to American managers because they didn't know if they were going to have a programmer this week or next week. So that's where James Henderson comes back. He's been a programmer for 25 years, and he'd love to help you. Give him a call at area code 832-338-2926. And now, something that you probably won't see with him and his companies that he's worked with is companies that are invested in negative bond yields. What is a negative bond yield? Why? What is it all about? Well, good question. So a definition of a negative bond yield is an unusual situation in which issuers of debts are paid to borrow. At the same time, depositors or buyers of the bonds pay a cash flow instead of receiving interest income. So what does all that mean? And you get into some of these financial terms, and you're just going, huh? So let's break it down, what a negative bond yield is. It's bond trading in the open market can effectively carry a negative rate bond yield if the price of the bond trades at a sufficient premium. So remember that the price of the bond changes inversely with the bond yield. The higher the price of the bond, the lower the yield. So let me repeat that. The higher the price of a bond, the lower the yield. At some point, the price of the bond can increase efficiently, implying a negative yield for the purchaser. So what? So give me another example. So, okay, so what, going back to what does a negative bond yield mean? If the bond has a negative yield, it means the bondholder loses money on the investment. Though this is relatively unusual, whether a bond has a negative yield largely depends on the type of yield being calculated. So depending on the purposes of the calculation, a bond yield can determine using the current yield or the year yield to maturity formulas. Guys, you got to go research this. As a bond guy, I've seen many different variations of this yield. I mean, some of these firms out there that are saying that these bonds are the best deal ever and it's the premium deal. Oh, you're not going to receive your interest that you want. Well, sure, you're going to receive the calculation and the investment back, but most people who invest in bonds are looking for an annual or semi-annual investment. It's the weirdest, it's the neatest thing out there, and how different calculations are dealt with. But I digress. If I was you, I would start looking at investments that when you buy the bonds, you're actually able to convert them into stock. Now, it's good to sit on your money to state that, listen, you don't need to spend your money now. Bond salesmen, though, have given me, and they've got a bad rap because they like to buy and sell bonds all day long. Well, you're not gonna, if you have a bond guy that loves to buy and sell bonds using your money, you'll never make the money in the yield to pay off his commission. So if I was you, once again, if you got a guy that loves to buy and sell bonds, listen, just go to your local E-Trade account or your whatever account that you have and invest in your own way. I mean, the markets are highly regulated and they're very institutionalized. So a AAA rating can still mean the same thing as a AAA rating in 2008. Well, you know how the housing market took a dive. There's no real big reason of calculations. So make sure that you're investing in a company that is going to be around. But every once in a while, you can find these good deals from a guy who's trying to resell their bonds, like at bondsheets.com, at a lower price because he's having a fire sale or divorce sale or whatever sale you want to call it. And then you can turn around at that point in time and make a lot of cash. I mean, I've been called several times. It's like, hey, I'm trying to sell the bond. Bond's going for 16, and I just want to get rid of it at 12. While doing a couple keystrokes, making sure the company is not going into Chapter 11. I'll buy the bond, and the very next day, I'll tell the whole world I've got a sale going on with these bonds. They're going on for 16, sell them for 14, and I've just made my cash back. So here at bondsheets.com, I just want to say thank you for an awesome day. We've got a great line ahead of us coming next week. And if you got any questions, comments, or concerns, why don't you log on to bondsheets.com and contact us. We'd love to find out more of what you're thinking and what you're wanting us to tell you about. So here at bondsheets.com, we want to thank you very much for listening to us today. Y'all have a great day.